Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about chapter 2, which is the rules and regulations. The commission rules and regulations. Okay. So let's go to chapter 2. I just want to make sure I got this wrong book. Okay. So we have it this way. All right. So as we discussed in the earlier chapter, once you get your license as a salesperson, you're going to be working underneath a broker manager or a broker. So your broker is responsible for everything that you do. Okay, so if you have any questions, always go to your broker, because it's better for them to know whatever it is that could be or possibility than not knowing. Okay, because they could get into trouble as much as you can get in trouble for your actions. So it's important for you to know that whatever you do, your broker is responsible for your actions, not just you. Okay? So we'll start with the limitations on a salesperson. Okay? A salesperson cannot accept any kind of compensation, any kind of fees or anything, except from their supervising broker or broker manager. Okay? You cannot have or hold funds on behalf of somebody else. Okay? And you cannot work for more than one broker. Brokerage is the one that owns everything, as we stated earlier. So the broker, their main office is the place of business. Every brokerage has to have in New Jersey, has to have a brick and mortar office, meaning an office where somebody has to walk into. Okay? It has to be an approved location by the Real Estate Commission. It's got to be open during normal business hours. It has to have the name of the broker of record or employing broker prominently displayed on the outside of the door. Okay, so if it's just one office, then it's going to be Gloria Benarash, broker of record. If I choose not to be the manager of that office, then it could be Maria Cruz, managing or supervising broker, Gloria Benarash, broker of record. Okay, so whoever's managing that office is going to have their name on the front of the door, and in addition, then the broker of record. Okay, a broker can have an office in a residence as long as it has a separate entrance and it is visible from the street. That is key word. You cannot have an office in the home of a salesperson. Now, I will say this as well. I know we all have offices in our homes, right? Most of us will be working from our home, not necessarily in the office, the brokerage office. You can never state and use the words, I'm working out of my home office, meaning that you're working out of your office at home, because your home office is where your brokerage office is. Okay? So if you're saying that you're working at home, then you just say that you're working at home, but you're not working at your home office. Okay? And that is a trick question, and that's a trick question on the phone as well if you have a tester, and I'll get into that later. So the answer is, I'm working out of my house right now, or I'm at home, or I just don't tell them where I am and I'm just working and answering questions. They don't need to know where I am. Okay? So that's the one thing. So you don't have an office in your home. Your office, no matter who you are, is where the brokerage has that office. Okay? So my office is 848 Broad Street, Shrewsbury. Now, my real office is at home. I've got everything at home, but my office is 848 Broad Street. Okay? And that's how you have to look at it. Okay? All right, so that's an important thing, because people have gotten caught on the phone where they said that they have a home office and they meant that they're working at home, but it was taken the wrong way and they got into trouble for that. So you can't say that. Okay, the branch office. All right, so now if we have a main office and now we have a company that decided that they're going to have several offices, those are called branch offices. So they each have to have a duplicate license for that branch. So it will basically show the address of that office, and it will show the name of the broker that's working in that office, all right, or the broker manager. So each branch has to be under the supervision of a broker. The one broker, the broker of record, cannot manage other offices. They can only manage one office. Okay, so and any other offices that are out there must be managed by another broker manager. And as with the main office, this branch office must have the name of the office supervisor or office manager along with on the front door. And the name must be recorded with the commission so that if the broker manager quits, then the broker of record is going to have to get another manager, and they're going to have to redo the duplicate license with the new broker manager name on there. Okay, because they're all recorded at the commission. All offices, whether it's the main office, branch offices, or whatever the case may be, have to display the names and licenses of all the people that are working in that particular office. Okay, so I'm working in the, my license is attached to the Shrewsbury office. So everybody that's working in the Shrewsbury office, their name is displayed there. If I was working in the Rumson office, my license is attached to the Rumson office, then my name and everybody else's names is attached to the Rumson office. Okay. Right. They're typically, if you walk in through the front door, there's typically like a little frame, and it's got everybody's name and license number next to it. So you can just take a look who's there. And then that has to get constantly updated as people come and go. Trust accounts. Trust accounts are also known as escrow accounts. They are held by the firm or by the brokerage, by the business, okay, by the broker. And they basically have them so that they can hold other people's monies in that account. Okay, so if there's going to be a deposit on, let's say we're writing up a contract and they're writing up a deposit, then that deposit will be going into the trust account or the brokerage escrow account to be held until another point in time. The trust accounts, escrow accounts can only be monies for business transactions. The broker cannot put any of their own monies into that account. And if they do that, it is called commingling. and that is illegal. Okay, so a trust account or an escrow account is held for other people's monies in a business transaction, and the broker cannot put their own personal money into that account. The only time that they would be allowed to put in personal monies into that account is to be able to make sure that it stays open and they pay the bank fees. All right, that's the only time that they're able to put in personal money, is to make sure that the fees are paid. So earnest money and deposits must be placed in the trust account, okay? And they must be deposited within 5 business days. So if you're writing up a contract and you're getting a deposit, you need to get it to your broker, and it needs to get deposited into the broker's trust account within 5 business days. That's the key word. Now, monies can be held by the broker, can be held by the attorney, the bank, the title company, or even the owner of the property that we're writing a contract on. But either way, it's got to be deposited, okay? Obviously, it says here, written receipts required for cash deposits. Brokers will not take cash deposits. Bank attorneys will not take cash deposits, all right? A bank may be, but if there is a cash deposit, obviously a receipt has to be written. But I can tell you, brokers and attorneys do not take cash deposits. And withdrawals cannot be written out in cash. So if you've taken a deposit for a contract, let's just say you've taken $1,000 deposit, your buyer is giving it to you in cash, you say, I'm sorry, I cannot take this cash. You'll have to get a money order or a banker's cashier's check or something like that, right? That's the only way that you're going to be able to take that money for that contract, all right? And then you're going to have to make sure you get it to your broker's trust account, and they deposit it within 5 business days. Key words, 5 business days. You must remember that. And I can tell you this, I can give you I'll try to make it a short story, but it's a real story. There was a company that I worked for. They had 5 offices. And because of an agent, the broker lost all 5 offices. All right, that's how important it is, because the monies that the agent got, and I'm going to make it short, did not deposit the monies. The broker did not know about it. The seller did not know about it. They're going forward. All of a sudden, the monies were found. The check was found in the file. Then it got deposited. It's a long story, but they got deposited. The check bounced. The broker put monies in to cover the bounced check, and it goes on and on and on and on, and I won't go into the whole thing. The bottom line is the agent lost his license forever, and the broker lost his license forever and lost all 5 offices. So commingling deposits of monies is very important, and you can lose your license, all right? So what is currently happening in real life, okay, what most brokerages are opting out for is that, and especially now because we're doing a lot of things via Zoom and internet, via DocuSign and all of this. So what most brokerages are now opting for is that no deposit, no initial deposit, or if there is an initial deposit, that it is sent to the buyer's attorney's escrow account. Okay, and you'll understand as we go through into the other chapters. So if there is an initial good faith earnest money deposit, typically $1,000, then basically what happens is we ask that the buyers write it to their attorney's escrow account, so that this way the brokerage company doesn't get it. And the reason for this, because what has been happening, or what has happened in the past is if we took that $1,000 deposit and we deposited it into the broker's trust account, which is the proper thing to do, and it got deposited within 5 business days, which is the proper thing to do. If you were not on top of this money, okay, and the admin of the brokerage company was not on top of this money, it stayed in that account, all right? It didn't get lost, it just stayed in that account. And then what would happen is that at the closing, all of a sudden, there's $1,000 missing. And where is that freaking $1,000? Well, because nobody stayed on top of that $1,000, it never got transferred to the attorney's escrow account, all right? So it would end up happening that now the broker has to write out a check, that $1,000 check, and depending on how the attorneys are and how they're reacted to it, it became a big mess. So that is why now it's either we don't take an earnest deposit, or if we do take an earnest deposit, it gets deposited into the buyer's attorney's escrow account. Okay, are we good with that? Are we getting it? Okay. As an FYI, the buyer's attorney is the one that's in charge of all the monies that happen in the transaction. Okay, that is why we're sending it to the buyer's attorney. Okay, and if there's any kind of questions on any kind of monies that is coming in, if you're not told where to go, where to have it put, just have them put it into the buyer's attorney's escrow account. You can be told differently on anything, but if you don't know where, the easiest and the right thing to do is just to have it put into the buyer's attorney account, and then it can always get transferred to wherever it needs to go. Okay? All right. Cash, there's no such thing as cash. We do not take cash. We do not withdraw in cash. So that $1,000, we're at the closing, cannot be taken out as cash. The broker is going to have to write out a check for that $1,000. As I mentioned before, all records, all permanent transaction records must be kept for 6 years, okay? And that's inclusive of trust accounts. We're not talking just transactions. We're talking about anything that has to do with the brokerage company. So it could be employee checks, business checks, rental checks, anything that has to do with the business brokerage has to be kept for 6 years. Okay, commingling is not permitted. You can't mix personal or business funds together. You must know the word commingling. That is a word that they use. Anything in the state exam, any kind of weird word, okay, guaranteed you're going to have it in a question, all right? Commingling is not a word we use every day. It's going to be in somebody's state exam question. It's got to be maintained in a separate account, all right? And you're allowed to put small amount of business funds or personal funds to maintain the escrow account, to keep it open for any kind of bank fees, okay? Yeah, we have to deposit anything within 5 business days. And remember, 5 business days. Do not just say 5 days. If you say 5 days, that's a wrong answer, okay? Plain and simple. And that's basically, you have to segregate property monies from other people. If you're changing the business location, if you're a broker and you're changing the business location, then you're going to need to notify the commission. You're going to have to pay a small fee, and obviously you're going to have to get a new business, a new license with the new address and the new people that are going to be managing it, or if you're managing it. Okay, employment agreements, okay? We are technically not employees. Technically, we are independent contractors, so we are technically signing independent contract agreements, all right? They're all, however, everybody's calling it an employment agreement because we're basically working for that broker. Even though this is our own business, all right, we are technically independent contractors signing independent contract agreements, all right? Everything has to be put into writing. So we have an agreement between the broker and the salesperson before you can work for them. So when I stated to you that you're going to be signing on with the broker before you can get your license, all right, that's basically what you're going to be signing. You're going to be negotiating everything with that broker, and whatever you have negotiated is going to be put into writing, and therefore you're going to sign it, and therefore that's going to become your employment agreement with that broker, okay? So you're going to get a copy of that agreement, and then a copy of the agreement is going to be held in a business file in the brokerage. You're going to have to keep that for 6 years so that they can prove delivery that you got a copy of it. It's going to show what your rate of compensation is. So your compensation is also known as a split, okay? So what is your split? Is it a 50-50 split, 55, 45, 60, and so on, 60-40, and so on. So whatever it is, it's going to state in there. It's going to have a promise that the broker is going to pay your commission in a timely fashion. Again, here it's 10 calendar days. If they don't pay you within 10 calendar days, they could get into a lot of trouble, all right? Because that is the law. Now, the other part of it is that the broker promises to pay the commission in a timely fashion, all right, as soon as the check clears. Typically, most of the checks are from New Jersey, but if you get out-of-state checks, it may take a couple of days, all right? But most of the time, I would say majority of the time, you will get paid within the 10 calendar days. Then in this employment agreement is going to be the compensation paid after your termination. So if you choose to terminate it, meaning you're going to move from one company to another company, that would be classified as a termination with that company, but a transfer to another company, you're still going to have to get a accounting of what your compensation is if you're leaving any business behind, okay? And then any kind of future changes that are going to be happening in the with you and your broker, then that's also going to have to be put into writing. So as I said, anything and everything in real estate is put into writing, all right? And then again, it has to be signed by both parties. So you cannot have an agreement that's signed by one person, because that means it's not, as far as the consumer fraud, it's not agreed upon by both parties. It has to be agreed and signed by both parties, okay? So the general operation of a business, all right? So if the broker decides that they're no longer going to be in operation, then again, they're going to, at this point in time, return all of the licenses to the commission. Now, again, if you find out ahead of time that the broker is planning on closing the business, then basically you can transfer over quickly and not have to go through that limbo period. But if you don't know that that is happening and now and they're sending back all of your licenses, well, then you have that limbo period, and then you'll have to wait until your name pops up again, and then you can go to another company. But the key here is that the brokerage has to notify all the principals. Principals meaning anybody that they've transacted business with for the last 6 years, where the records are going to, that they're closing the business, and where are the records going to be stored. So now again, because we've had paper companies and we now have cloud companies, so it's going to be where are the papers being held, and then where are the cloud transactions being held. But either way, the broker has to notify everybody if they decide to close. The commissions, the listing agreement must contain in large type, which it does, that the commissions are negotiable. There is no such thing as a standard commission, average commission, normal commission. There's no such thing. It's what you and the individual client that you're talking with is negotiating, okay? It has not been fixed by any MLS, trade organization, government organizations, nothing, 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 okay? It cannot be pre-printed either to even imply that there's a set commission. So right now, because we're doing a lot of online forms and we fill out a lot of stuff online, all right, so we can pre-print them out, the commission, pricing, dates, or anything along a listing agreement cannot be pre-printed unless it's been agreed to and you're sending it for e-signature. But if you're not sending it for e-signature and it has not been agreed, you cannot print it out with all that information filled in. The other part of it is that you have to let everybody know how you plan to split the commission that you have negotiated. All right, so we'll go into more details on that, but the bottom line is you're going to disclose how the money is going to be split with the other people that are going to be involved in that transaction. As a salesperson, you cannot sue a principal or a client. I should change that. It's only the broker can sue the principal or the client. And why do you think it's that? Why do you think the broker can sue the principal or client and not the salesperson?
Because the broker
Because it's not their business.
Right, because the broker owns everything. All right, so the broker is the one that gets paid. It's not the salesperson that gets paid. All right, so it's only the broker that can sue for the commission. All right, net listings. So what is a net listing? A net listing is where a seller comes to you, you're meeting up with the seller, and the seller says, hey, listen, Gloria, you know, I'd like to list with you, but you know, this is what I'd like to do. And I'm like, okay, what is it that you want to do? Well, I want, if you sell I want $500,000 in my pocket. That's what I want. And if you sell my house for anything above that, that's your commission. So I would say, okay, so if I sell the property for $1 million, you get $500,000. That means my commission is $500,000. Yep, that's right. The answer to that is it's illegal in New Jersey. All right. It may be legal in other states, but in New Jersey, it is illegal. All right. We cannot have the seller tell us they want this much in their pocket and anything above that belongs to us. We have to state what the actual commission is going to be based on whatever it is we're putting the house on the market for. Okay, now we can backtrack it. Now, again, I have no idea what I'm talking about because a lot of times that's what people tell us, right? And I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I can backtrack it to figure out, okay, if I do this and do this, but you have to do it with the seller there. You can't not do it on your own. So you can't say, okay, if he wants $500,000 and I want 6% commission, and then I need to add a little bit for negotiation, well, then we're going to be asking, let's say, $650,000, right? You and the seller have to be sitting there together talking about those numbers, right? It's not something that you can sit there and do the numbers on your own and say, okay, Mr. Seller, this is what you got to sell it for. All right, it's not your house, it's not your money. All right, all you're doing is you're negotiating the 6% commission. Okay, so net listings, keyword, net listings, illegal, prohibited in New Jersey, allowable in other states. You must remember that because the question might be, are net listings allowed? And then New Jersey, blah, 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 other states or whatever. The answer is, depending on how they phrase it, are they allowed in other states? Then the answer is to that, yes. If they're saying net listings in New Jersey, blah, 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 are not allowed in New Jersey, then the answer, yes, they're not allowed in New Jersey, all right? So when you're reading the questions, there's always one or two words that will change the way the answer is. You'll always find two correct answers and two wrong answers. You'll always find those immediately, all right? So once you've deciphered those two correct answers, you need to decipher what exactly are they asking, because they always have these words as accept, not, any of those kind of weird words that can change the question, all right? You need to reread it to make sure that what you've chosen is actually answering that question. And there might be an answer that may not be 100% correct based on what we studied in the book, all right? But based on the other answers that are in the multiple choice, there's only one answer that really answers what they're asking. Then you're going to have to go for that. And it may not be the 100% correct answer, but it will answer what they're asking you. Okay? So that takes care of that. Okay, contracts. Sales contracts, okay? We have to make sure that the signers, or the sellers in this case, get the buyers, right, get a duplicate original. So this is what I love about DocuSign and all these e-signature, is that they automatically get the duplicates. Once all people have signed on it, everybody gets the signatures, the duly signed signatures. But if we're doing with paper, and sometimes you're going to have to do that because there are older folks that don't know how to do e-signature, and do have some patience for these people, they are going to request that you come and see them and you put it in writing, in paper form. So bring a duplicate copy with you. All right. So if you're going to be dealing with a person that's over 60 years old, all right, unless they're techie, be prepared to do things in paper with them. All right. And do have patience with those people, because there's a lot of them right now that are selling properties. So if that is the case, you need to make sure that while you, if you're doing a contract with the buyer, all right, then you're going to need to get it signed. Now, if the buyer is a 65-year-old, 70-year-old, let's say, and they're just a paper person, but the other side is not a paper person, you could certainly PDF it, and then get the signature, get it via e-signature on the contract, but you have to make sure that your buyer gets a copy of it. You'll have to print out, unless they'll accept an email, but you'll have to print out the PDF, the duly signed PDF for them, all right? But whatever it is, remember, it's what they want, not what you want, all right? That's the key that you have to remember here. I mean, a lot of times we think it's what we want, but it's not. It's what makes the customer or what makes the client happy, what makes it easier for them to keep the transaction going, okay? And that's very important to remember. Commissions are negotiated between the client and the broker. In this instance here, when we're talking about this, the answer is this broker is me. It's you, the salesperson, all right? We are representing the broker, okay? So we are the ones that are negotiating the commission between the client and the broker, but we're in essence representing the broker. The agreement is between me and the client, but I'm representing the broker, so therefore that's where this question comes in, or the statement comes in, okay? So again, we have to read how they're referring it to. Licensees can prepare sales contracts only for a 1 to 4 family or a single building lot, all right? Anything beyond that is considered commercial, and it would have to be done by an attorney. Now, having said that, we'll go further down. If it's a commercial, we can do a letter of intent. Now, depending on the brokerage company that you have, they may already have a set up letter of intent that you can use, all right? If you're going to be selling a 5-family house, or if you're going to be selling commercial property, all right? Because you want it in writing. You want everything in writing. You do not want anything verbally, okay? So if you're selling a commercial piece of property, then basically what a letter of intent is, and you can draw one up yourself. Have I done it? Yes, I've even done it where it was handwritten, because we're standing there in front of my car with a piece of paper and we're writing it up on the hood, okay? So it's what makes it easy, what gets it done. I want a contract, you know, so whatever makes it happen, that's how you do it. So basically a letter of intent is very simplistic. The name of the owners, the property name, the name of the buyers, who you are representing. If the owners are represented by a broker, then you're going to do the name of the owners, the address, and the broker's name. Then you're going to write down your buyer's name, your name, and then it's going to be purchase price. What are they offering? Okay, deposit. Is there a good faith deposit? Is it just a deposit? What is that amount? Are they going for a mortgage? What is that amount? In commercial, you have to have additional inspection issues. So they might say contingent upon environmental inspections that could take up to 3 months. And then we need to get a mortgage, whatever the mortgage date is. And then the closing date will be whatever the date is, all right? And that in essence is a letter of intent. Very simplistic, all right? And then they sign it. So now I have this handwritten piece of paper. I am now either going to fax it, email it, PDF it, hand carry it, whatever way it is that I got to do it, to the other side. And if that side agrees to it, then in that case, the other side, the seller, will sign it. I'll get a copy of it. So now we have 2 signatures. Who's going to get a copy of it?
Everyone.
The customer, right? Customer's going to get a copy of the 2 signature, right? Letter of intent. And then what they're going to do is they're going to take that letter of intent and give it to their attorney, because the buyer's attorney is the one that's going to write up the actual commercial contract. All right. So all we wrote up is a letter of intent, and you must put that on top. Okay. Letter of intent. All right. And so basically I call it a Polaroid picture of today. Now, the seller might accept my Polaroid picture of today. They may not, and we might go back and forth, all right? And then we might end up having initial numbers changed, and then still get the 2 signatures. And then the 2 signature letter of intent is going to go to the buyer's attorney, and they're going to be writing up the actual contract. And woohoo, I got a contract. All right, it's nothing simple, it's nothing scary. It's just a Polaroid picture of what the buyer wants to present to the seller. Okay, is that good? Okay, any contract offers, if you're the listing agent, okay, you're the listing agent, and you get a written offer from a buyer's agent, you must present it to the seller within 24 hours. That is deemed reasonable. Okay, the answer is to be presented within a reasonable period of time. That's what the rules and regulations, the commission rules and regulations are. Reasonable period of time is considered 24 hours. All right. So if it's keyword written offers, all right, that's the key word. I do not have to present verbal offers. Okay. Any oral or verbal offers do not have to be presented, okay? But I want to cover my ass. So what I am going to do is I am first going to reply to the agent that has given me a verbal offer, and state to them, as we discussed on the phone, you have verbally offered blah, blah, blah on behalf of your buyer, blah, 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 blah. As you know, verbal offers do not have to be presented, okay? But I will let my seller know, and as I have told you, it is not an acceptable number, but I will let my seller know nonetheless. Okay, so this way I'm covering my ass, plain and simple, all right? And then I will send an email to my seller and say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I received a verbal offer for such and such and such. I did relay to them that you will not accept, that this is not a number that you will accept, but I just wanted to let you know that we did receive this verbal offer. And then I will also call my seller, all right? Then this way, there is no misunderstanding about anything. Everybody's in the loop, they're on top of it. Now, again, you have to understand that when I say that this number is not accepted, I will have had a conversation at the listing that the seller will have told me, hey, listen, Gloria, if you get offers that are 400,000, forget it, I'm not even listening to it. All right, so based on that conversation is how I responded to that email with the verbal offer. All right, just so that we don't misunderstand where I come off saying, no, that number is stupid. All right, but I believe in letting my seller know, because what happens if I don't do this, but there are agents out there that do, that take overpriced listings, okay? And it's really overpriced. If you start getting, and this is another way to start documenting, all right, that look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you told me, we listed it at 550, but look, I'm getting verbal offers from all these people at 475, 480, 485, blah, 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 blah. And I've been telling you that you have to drop the price, that you're overpriced, blah, 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 blah. Here's just another form or another way of me documenting what I've been telling the seller all along, that he's overpriced. Okay, this is just another form of documentation to protect what I've been saying all along. Now, this seller may say, well, screw you, Gloria, I don't care. This is what I want, this is what we're listed at, and if you can't do the job, then I'll go someplace else. And at that point, I'll probably say, well, screw you too, goodbye. But again, I'm not the one who can say screw you too, goodbye, because who owns the listing?
Broker.
Broker. The broker owns the listing. So I could say screw you too, but I'd still have to go to the broker and tell them, hey, listen, screw this person. If you want, you can give it to somebody else and I'll get a referral fee on it, but I'm not dealing with this asshole anymore. Okay? But I can't negate that listing, all right? I can't terminate that listing. It's only the broker that can terminate it, all right? But the bottom line, as far as real estate is concerned, this is how I do business. You can choose to do it whatever way you wish to do, or however way your brokerage recommends for you to do, all right? But I'm a firm believer of being translucent, translucent and transparent and full disclosure. And then this way, oh, and then the other reason why I do it, I'll tell you this. I'm not in the social cliques, all right? There's social strata, right? There's a social strata. I'm not in that social strata, but I don't know if this person knows this person in this social strata, and they might end up being at a cocktail party, which of course I'm never invited to, and they might be at that cocktail party, and all of a sudden the discussion comes, oh yeah, this I made an offer on your property, and and then the seller goes, no, you didn't. I don't know anything about the offer on the property. And they go, yeah, I called my agent, and my agent called your agent, and well, your agent didn't do your job. Okay, she didn't do her job. So that's the other reason why I protect myself in that, because I'm not in that clique, I'm not in that social strata, and you never know who knows who. So by doing it this way, by being totally transparent, totally full disclosure, there's no way that somebody can come back to me and say, well, Gloria, you never told me. Because then I can always refer back to my emails that I always keep of 120,000 right now in Gmail. That I can always go back to those emails and say, here you are. This is where I sent it to you. This is where I told you. Okay, so that's just me. Again, like I said, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, regulations of other documents. The broker must keep copies of all unaccepted offers. So in this instance here, what we're talking about is because right now we're in bidding war situations. Okay, so you might have a listing, and you may get multiple offers on that listing. If you do get multiple offers, there's always losers and only one winner. So you want to make sure that you keep a copy of all the losers' offers, and they have to be kept for 6 months. Again, where it's kept is based on your brokerage company, okay? Because what could potentially happen is the winner that supposedly won may not be able to go forward with the offer that they did, or they're canceling out, or whatever the case may be. Then you have these other offers. Let's say there's 6 offers, because 6 is the real estate number. So we have 6 offers. So now we have 1-1, so we have 5 offers left over. The winner decides that they're not going forward, or something falls apart. Then you have 5 people to go back to and say, hey, listen, the deal fell apart. Are you still interested, or did you already buy something? All right. So, or there might be issues where the other realtors may make a complaint that you weren't fair, or who knows? All right. I'm not even going to go into that aspect of it. But the bottom line is, if anything happens within 6 months, you can protect whatever has been said or not said, or whatever, and they keep it. Any other kind of contracts or sales or listing agreements that have gone into fruition have to be kept for 6 years by the broker, as we discussed earlier. So again, all the files are the property of the broker, and all files must be available to the commission at any time. So if you're sitting, if who knows what life is going to be in 2021. So if you're sitting in the office and the real estate commission comes in, says knock, 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 and I want to see the broker manager, or whatever the case may be, you just rush, because the broker manager is going to have to comply with whatever it is the commission person wants. All right. And if they want files, then they'll have to give them the files. All right, so now we're getting into the types of relationships that we can have, okay? So, and we have to disclose to everybody what kind of a relationship we have, all right? And one of the ways that we disclose the relationship is through a consumer information statement, CIS. I'll refer to a CIS all the time. It's a lot easier. So we can have a relationship where it's the broker and the seller, also known as a principal. It could be a broker and a buyer, could also be known as a principal. It could be a broker as a disclosed dual agent, or it could be a broker as a transaction broker. Now, broker here is the firm, right? We are representing the firm. So the salespeople, whoever they are, represent the broker in this relationship, all right? Because again, everything is owned by the broker. I'm not the owner of the paperwork. I'm not the owner of anything, but I am representing the owner of the person. And basically they're using me and my relationship and my savoir-faire and whatever else you want to call it in order to make a business deal. Okay? So these are the types of relationships. In this case here, if we're talking about the broker has set themselves up as a transaction broker, then basically they're a transaction broker. Most brokers have set themselves up as a seller's agent or seller's broker. Basically, we're representing the seller because we are getting paid by the seller. All right. But your brokerage company, again, is going to tell you what relationship they have chosen. Now, again, depending on where we are in the transaction, these things can change. change. And hopefully we're going to get into that. Well, not yet, but that's just the beginning. All right, so you can start thinking about that. So again, as we mentioned before, we have a written agreement between the broker and the salesperson. All right, and basically they're telling us that how we're going to get paid, and that any monies that they get paid on our behalf or our commission that we've negotiated, we're going to get paid our split within 10 days. And we've stated that it's going to be a rate of compensation, all right? How we're going to get paid, how we're going to get paid when we leave the brokerage, or any kind of changes that happen, or any kind of negotiations that we have done. So I might have, if I'm a brand new salesperson and I decided that I might need help, part-time help as an assistant, I might negotiate and say, and tell the broker, look, I could use, if you can help me, give me an assistant for 2 hours a week, can we negotiate that? Or, can you pay half, or whatever the case may be? Or I need help in mailing dollars, or I need help in brochures or postcards or whatever. Whatever I decide to negotiate with that broker is what's going to be put into an agreement, and it's going to be in writing. And until it changes in writing, it's going to be there forever. That's weird. Okay. All right, let me see where we are in the book here so that we can move forward. I just did that. All right, well, okay, so I'm basically, so I'm on page 18 in the book, 18, 19 in the book. So I must have messed something up. Okay, broker cooperation is listing agents cannot place unreal restrictions on the property. So if I'm taking a listing, all right, I've made an agreement with the seller that, and they've agreed to list with me, that whatever I have agreed with them, it's going to go onto the multiple listing service, and then it's going to be propagated out to the black hole internet. All right. But what happens if I have a seller that states that they have a very sick child, and they do not want me to cooperate with other brokers, all right? Because in our rules and regulations, in the National Association of Realtors, in our code of ethics, all right, which we'll go in later on, it states that we have to cooperate with everybody. All right. So now my seller is telling me, well, I don't want you to cooperate with everybody. I just want you to sell my property. That's what I want you to do. So if my seller is telling me that, then I'm going to have them sign a waiver of broker cooperation, meaning that they are fully aware that they're telling me that I'm not allowed to cooperate with other brokers, and that the only person that's going to be bringing them a buyer is going to be either me or somebody from my brokerage office. All right? But I have to have them sign off on this piece of paper. If they do not sign off on this piece of paper, then I have to make sure that I cooperate with anybody who wants to see this property. I have to make sure that whatever they're telling me is not discriminatory. Okay, that they say, okay, well, all right, I'll give you the listing, but I don't want any Hispanics coming through this property. Well, listen, Mr. Seller, if you don't know already, let me point out to you that the backside, or the second page of the listing agreement, is basically the New Jersey law against discrimination. And in it, it says I have to comply with all the laws. And it states here that I cannot discriminate against any ethnicity, any race, any whatevers, and we can go down the list here, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. This is it. So if you want to discriminate, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to take your listing. Okay? It cannot have just different splits in the listing agreement. It cannot have any different splits unless I am disclosing what the different splits are. And we'll get into that further down the line. all right? And the commissions to a non-resident broker is okay as long as they're licensed under another broker, which in this case, we're talking about a referral fee, all right? So as a compensation, we cannot accept any money or valuable considerations from anyone but our employing broker. Now, what happens if the seller says, okay, Gloria, I will be willing, if you sell my property in 20 days, all right, I'll be willing to give you a bonus of $10,000. Okay? And I'm like, woohoo! All right, $10,000. Let's see if I can sell it in 20 days, right? So the answer is that has to be negotiated with your broker, how they're going to handle that $10,000. Because who pays you?
The broker.
The broker, right? So now, is the broker going to want to have a piece of that $10,000?
Yeah, you bet.
Bet your sweet bippy they are. All right. So the answer is, again, it would have to be disclosed that the seller is willing to pay the listing agent $10,000 if they sell the property within whatever. Okay. The seller may say, okay, Gloria, let's give the buyer's agent, anybody that brings us a buyer, we'll give them an American Express card of $1,000. Okay. Again, whatever the brokerage agreement is between the agent and the broker as to how these additional little incentives are handled, okay? That, because we're giving it to the buyer, I don't care. It's how the buyer's agent and the buyer's broker settles that, all right? Or it may be that $10,000 might be given to the buyer's agent who brings them a buyer. Again, it's how the buyer's agent, okay, and their broker have the agreement set up, all right? So again, these are things that you might want to just, when these things happen, then you need to discuss these things with the broker. It'll be usually listed in the MLS. Something like this might be in the agent's part of the MLS, but these things do happen, all right? So either way, these things have to be discussed with the broker. And once again, it's the broker that gets it and they give it to you. Typically, if it's like an American Express card for $50, $100, or $1,000, typically, as long as the broker is aware that this is happening, typically that gift card is just given to you. But again, the broker must be aware of it and must approve of it or agree to that. Okay, the real estate commission does not get involved or resolve in any kind of compensation, any extra dollar compensation, they don't get involved in it. They are here to protect the consumer. They are not here to protect the realtor. Okay, while everybody thinks the real estate commission is to protect the realtor, that is not the case. All right, now let's go back to, here to broker and seller, broker and buyer, brokers dual disclose. It goes into, I don't want it, you can read it on page 19. I want to go more in depth in it when we start getting into agency. So if you just kind of read it, and you'll get a little overview on it. But once we get into agency, it's really going to be very intense. So there's no point in getting intense about it right now, all right? It's just giving you a brief overview of how we can represent people, okay? All right, advertising. It's a big deal, and it's a very big deal right now, especially with social media. So we have to be pretty much aware of this. Yeah, we're to the end anyway, so that's good. All right, so New Jersey Real Estate Commission regulates anything that is offered for sale. So they regulate our advertisements, whether we're selling it, whether we're auctioning, whether we're on the buy side, renting or whatever, they have rules and regulations for advertising. And basically, the bottom line of it is they want to make sure that the public knows exactly, A, with whom they are dealing, what they are buying, and what can transpire in this transaction. So the general regulations regarding advertising goes to publications, newspapers, magazines, okay? But it's not just that. It includes radio, it includes TV, it includes email, okay? It includes anything on the internet, includes business cards, your stationery, your signage, okay? And billboards. Billboards right now is a very big deal. Right now, radio is a very big deal. TV with Apple TV and IGTV on Instagram. It's going to become, it's not very big right now. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're better off in doing it right at the beginning so that you don't get caught in the melee. All right? So, having said that, the bottom line to anything is you need to make sure that everybody knows what broker you're associated with. All right. So in this case, it would be in Shane Smith, it would be Chris Smith Realty, or I don't know how he has it phrased, right? Okay.
Yep.
And then it might, they're saying it's stating in the real estate business. No, if it says Chris Smith Realty, we know it's a real estate company. All right. Plain and simple. Chris Smith Real Estate Brokerage, we know it's real estate, all right? But if it's an obscure name, then we might have to say real estate. We might have to add to that obscure name, all right? So that they realize Apple Company. Well, Apple Company doesn't tell me what Apple Company is. So it might be Apple Company Real Estate, okay? We might have to add that in there. Anything that you do, and especially in the beginning of your career, in the first year, I would definitely state this in the first year, you want to make sure that all of your advertising, anything that you send out via the email, via the mail, via whatever, is reviewed by your broker, your managing broker. Not necessarily broker of record, but your managing broker or your employing broker. All right, because if it's not, then the real estate commission can issue fines both to the broker and to you for what you screwed up. All right, so that's why it's very important that whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that the brokerage company or your employing broker knows, so that this way, if you've done something not correct, they can correct it and nobody's going to get into trouble. All right. And then after a while, once they start seeing that you are, following the rules and regs and all of this kind of stuff, then they may not ask and require to see what you're doing, because they figure by now you should know what you're going to be, by now you should know what you're doing and what's proper. Okay. You cannot directly or indirectly specify any limitations. Okay. Such as race, religion, creed, color, sex, affectional, sexual orientation, ancestry, disability, or violate, again, any New Jersey law or any federal law. All right, that's really the bottom line. If you're referring to any kind of amounts, dollar amounts, down payments, monthly payments, taxes, mortgage money, anything that has to do with dollars, okay, there's other issues to that, but you must always, always, always have to a qualified buyer, okay? It must say always to a qualified buyer. Then it gets more intense when we're talking about dollar amounts, meaning down payments, monthly amounts, taxes, mortgage amounts, and all of that. That comes under trigger terms, and that comes under the mortgage definitions. We'll get into more details about that, all right? But if you are doing any of this, it has to be legal. It must always say to a qualified buyer, and then whatever the conditions are as to how you came up with whatever the dollars that you're putting into the ad, okay? Because the ads can stick around for a long time, and you've got dollar amounts in here, okay? The broker has to maintain a copy of this ad for 1 year, all right? So like we've seen homes and land ads, or homes real estate magazines, the homes and land magazines, the home real estate, those things stay around for a long time. People will pick it up. then they want to know about it. And then, then it becomes a really big sticky wicket if we can't answer how we came up with that number and all of that. And so that's why it's important to keep it. If you're doing the ad and it's your listing, my answer is I would highly keep everything with the listing, all right? I don't know how organized you guys are, but in real estate, you do have to be organized. As I said, time management is a very big thing, but also keeping your listings organized is very big. So what I basically do, I'll tell you what I do in my Google email or Outlook, whichever, I do both. Anal, I guess. Because it depends which one works better on which computer. But basically, I keep a file based on the address. So, and let's use 43 Portland Road, okay? So 43 Portland Road, it's a listing. So I'll have my listing agreement, my CIS, my addendums. We're out of a copy of the contract with both signatures. My seller's disclosure, whatever other, out of attorney review letter, and so on and so forth. Anything that belongs to that transaction. If I'm advertising it on Facebook or something like that, I'll keep my Facebook ad in that folder. If I'm doing Instagram, I'll put it in that folder. So anything that is related to that, yes, it's a pain in the ass, it's a lot of work, and sometimes having an assistant helps. I don't have an assistant, I do it all myself because I'm too much of a control freak. So I am. So I just make sure that everything is in there so that if anybody says, hey, listen, Gloria, on 43 Portland Road, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine, I have it. Now, I also know that everything that's in that file folder and all my emails in that Gmail file folder have all been sent to the transaction management thingy that my brokerage company has and uses. Okay, so if it's not in that folder and I missed it, then I know that that transaction management thingy that the brokerage company uses doesn't have it in there. Okay, so if I see an email or something that's not in this folder, then I know I need to put it into this folder and then I need to have it uploaded to the brokerage company. All right, so that's my system. So if I get, like today, I got an email about blueprints, okay? I know that I have not put that email in that folder, and I know that I have not put that email up into the transaction thing. So that's how I can keep track of whether I'm on target or not with that particular file. Now, again, it has to deal with the transaction. Now, if it's something like, well, Gloria, is it okay for the people to come by at 9 a.m. email, that's not going into that transaction folder, all right? Just so you understand that. If they say, can we come by whatever time? I mean, anything along those lines, I'm not putting that into the transaction folder. But if it's an email that states, Gloria, the buyers went by the property and they saw whatever, then that's a part of the transaction because I have to answer. There's something that I have to answer to that email, then that's going to be a part of the transaction folder. All right, that's what I mean by that. All right, I'm not talking about the appointment setting. I couldn't care less about the appointment setting. Who cares? All right. So that's basically that. So the ads, so anything that has to do with ads goes in there. Any kind of mailers that I have done, like mailers, just listed mailers, that goes in there as well. All right. I cannot, the only thing that I can offer, if I'm going to be doing any kind of a mailer, because I want to get business, right? So the only kind of thing that I can do as a free offering would be to offer a free CMA, which is a comparable market analysis, or what's your home worth analysis, or market analysis. You can put whatever wording you want to put to it, but basically it's a CMA, all right? I can offer that free to anybody that if I want to put a mailer out to send it out to anybody, I can do that, all right? I can never, ever, ever call it an appraisal. It is never known as or called an appraisal. Okay? I cannot make people sign something or get into a contract with me stating that they're going to be listing with me and they're going to get an iPad. Okay, I cannot induce them because I have an iPad that I'm giving out for free. Well, if you want this iPad, you have to sign with me. You can't do that. That's illegal. All right. You can't do any kind of lottery contest, drawings, or games to get them to work with you. If you're going to be doing trade shows or promotional booths, and you've got, let's say, free iPad drawing, right? Then they know and you know that the only reason that they're filling in this coupon is because they want their name pulled for the iPad, not because they want to do business with you. All right? Is everybody understanding that?
Mhm.
Okay? So that's the only thing, that's the only way that you can get names if you're going to be doing any kind of solicitation at trade shows or wherever it is you're going to be doing that. They're giving you their name because they're going for a drawing on this, not because they're going to be doing business with you. But what it does give you, though, just so you understand the reasoning behind it, is it'll start your database. It'll start giving you names and numbers to call people, to talk to them about real estate. And the key with, oh, Meowster, that water is not for you. Sorry. Drinking my water. Sorry. But the key here is if you don't have a sphere of influence or you don't have a lot of names to start contacting, this is a way to start getting names. They've met you, let's say at a trade show, you've kind of talked with them and everything. So it's not like it's a warmish kind of a contact. It's not a super cold contact that you've never talked to or you've never seen, okay? And usually people that will fill out is because they've talked to you and you've given them information and all of that. You must know the law as far as something like that is concerned is you have to keep in touch with them for up to 18 months. If you have not kept in touch, and you have their phone number, this is regarding the phone, okay? If you have not kept in touch with them for up to 18 months, then you can no longer call them after that, all right? And if they tell you that they don't want to talk to you, you have to honor that. Or if they tell you no mail, you have to honor that. Or put them on, you have to establish your own opt-out list, all right? If you're going to be doing a lot of emailing or blast emailing, depending again on your brokerage. I'm a rebel, so don't do as I do it, do as I say, okay? So whatever your brokerage company tells you to do or use, okay? But I would use one of the bigger companies such as Constant Contact or MailChimp, Active Pipe. I don't know, there's but a big company, a well-known company or whatever your brokerage company tells you to use, all right? Because then they abide by all the laws and regulations for spam and the EU and all these other kinds of things, okay? So I do use MailChimp. So I do use a main company, all right? So that this way it protects me because otherwise you can get fined $10,000, all right? So if you've sent something to somebody and they're on the do not call list or they're on the do not mail list or something like that, and they want to easy money, $10,000. I'm not on the do not call list and they called me, all right? Easy money to get fined, all right? So by using one of these companies, you can use these companies and they protect you and they automatically put your people that have opted out into a do not call list or an opt-out list, and then you can continue safely emailing people and not worried about getting into trouble for that. All right, so that's a very important thing. But this way, it gives you a warm call. It gives you a way to start your own list of people and talking to people and all of that. Okay. All right, so that's advertising. So we continue forward. But it doesn't say anything about a business card. Well, all right, we'll continue forward and we'll see. You cannot have a sign stating that the property is sold if the contract has not been fully executed. Remember these words: fully executed, contract, and sold. All right. Sold is the buyer. The buyer's agent or the buyer is the one that sells the property. If you are a listing agent, you did not sell the property. So you cannot put the word sold on that sign. All right. It's the buyer's agent that sold that property. So if they're going to be sending out just listed, just sold cards, it's the buyer's agent that is able to say, I sold this property, blah, 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 blah. If you want to send out just sold cards for this particular property, your version would be, I participated in the sale of this property, yada, yada, yada. I don't like that. Like I said, I'm a rebel. So I always say, another home, wait, hold on, let me get it into my head. Another home successfully marketed to a closed transaction. So I'm saying I sold it, but in a different word. Okay, because if it's my listing, I can't say I sold it, but I can say that I have successfully marketed it to a closed transaction, right? Or any verbiage along the way. But the verbiage that most brokerages and most postcards, if you're going to use postcards and things, will say that you have participated in the sale, and that's the proper wording. Okay. So that's important. When you're advertising in a magazine, okay, such as a Homes and Land or whatever other magazines that they have, you must always put the municipality of where the property is located first. So my 43 Portland Road is in Highlands. So it would say Highlands and then the description, blah, 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 call Gloria, whatever. Okay, so anything along those lines. The same thing if you're going to be doing it in a newspaper, classified ad, or anything along those lines, the municipality must always be before everything else. You cannot mislead the public with just your sales, with just your name. So if you're advertising anywhere, the business name must always be there. So it would always be Heritage House Sotheby's Brokerage, Gloria Benrosh Broker Associate. All right, no matter what, no matter where you put it. Now they don't state where it has to be if we're talking about on the internet. Okay, so if you have your own website, it could be, as long as it's on there, if I have to scroll 5 or 6 pages down, as long as I have it on there and it's on every single page on my website, okay, then that's legal. It doesn't have to be above the fold, as they used to call it in the newspaper jargon, but it must be on there. If you're sending out a letter, okay, whether you use it as a heading, okay, so it could be Gloria Benrosh, and then it could be Heritage House Sotheby's and all of that. The names have to be equal. You cannot have your name bigger than the brokerage company. Okay, your name and the brokerage company has to be the same, or the brokerage company has to be larger than you. All right, but you cannot be larger than the brokerage company, so that this way they don't there's no misrepresentation, no misunderstanding as to who you're working for. You must always have your title. So are you a salesperson? Are you an associate? Are you a broker salesperson or whatever? So the bottom line here is that your brokerage company, hopefully, and if not, negotiate it, that they pay for the first set of business cards. Okay? There's some brokerage companies that won't do that. You might want to negotiate it. And this way you know that the first set of business cards is proper and 100% correct. And anything thereafter, you just follow that format, how that is written up. You can never put a sign, your sign, on somebody else's property. If it's somebody else, you cannot put your sign on theirs unless some sort of an agreement between all parties, meaning between your brokerage company and the other person's brokerage company and you. Because sometimes, not often, not very often, but there might be a seller that wants to be represented by two separate brokerages, all right? But both brokerages have to agree to that, all right? And only then will there be two different brokerage company signs on that property. Otherwise, there's only one brokerage, unless we're talking commercial, and we'll discuss that further down the line. What else? Oh, on the business cards or anything that you mail out, anything that you have, anything that's in writing, okay, you have to have labels. So email, it should say email, gloryb@comcast.net or gloryb2008@gmail. Cell phone, cell, you can do either mobile or you can do cell, but it has to be labeled. If you're going to do office number, it should say office, or it could be O in parentheses and C in parentheses, as long as whatever the numbers are that you're going to be putting on have to be labeled. You must always include your brokerage website link address. All right, so I have my own personal website that I pay for, and then so therefore I will have www.heritagehousesotheby's, I think that's what it is, heritagehousesotheby's.com, and then I'll have www.gloryb.com. So I have both websites on there, okay? Your company, okay, like my company, gives me what they call a website, which reality is just a web page. All right, so if you're techie, you'll know the difference. If you're not techie, you don't need to know the difference. It doesn't really matter, all right? But you want to have one with your office company unless you're techie, and then you can do your own thing, okay? And then in that case, it would be, let's just say, it would be www.heritagehousesotheby's.com/Gloria Benrush, all right? So then this will automatically lead them to my page within my company's website. Okay, but it's my page. It's got my name, my face, my phone number, and anything else I want to put on there, and anything else that the company will allow to put on there. All right, because we do have to abide by what the brokerages will allow us to do. All right, some brokerages don't care, other brokerages do care. Sotheby's is very, very prestige conscious. Okay, so you need to be aware that when you're interviewing with other companies, you need to be aware of what their requirements are. So Sotheby's requires that we get dressed all the time. We're not allowed to be in jeans. Okay, so these are little intricacies that you need to know about your the different companies that are out there. Although it might be changing, but I'm just, as an FYI. Okay. Okay, you cannot advertise properties. Oh, here we go. This is the law. You must not advertise properties with other entities, mortgage companies, insurance companies, title companies. Only brokers or agents through brokers can solicit buyers and sellers. Okay, and only address that can be advertised is the business office, no reference to a home office. All right, and before you ask me this question, I will tell you up front, do you see postcards out there that are with a brokerage company and a mortgage company? And the answer is yes, and I have no idea what I'm talking about, because based on this, you're not allowed to do it, all right? Unless there's been an agreement, and half the time there isn't, but unless there's been an agreement between the brokerage company and the mortgage company. But do you see it? Yes, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But that's the law. So if there's a question about that, that's the law, and you have to go by that. If you're sending out postcards, mailers, etc., or anything that you're doing with, you cannot have your personal home address on there, okay? You must have the business office address on there. So any postcards must be returned to the business office, okay? So any returned postcards go back to the business office where you're affiliated with. If the office company that you're working with is a franchise or a trade name, okay, then it must state each office individually owned and operated. But once again, when you get that initial business card, or when you take a look, when you take a look at the initial stationery that you have, you'll see how it's set up and what's supposed to be on there properly, and that's what you're going to copy. Now you can make your own stationery, put your face on it and all of that. The brokerage company is not going to do that for you. But if you follow everything that they have on their stationery and just put your face on it, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as everything else is legal and based on what their official stationery is. Promoting the MLS with the complete name must be used in advertising. If you are going to be doing, what is it called? Where you're stating the closed sales, active sales, and pending sales, you have to state where you got that information from. And that information is always from the multiple listing service. So on the, if you're using their information and uploading it exactly as it is, then that information is automatically on there. But if you're going to transpose that information and make your own whatever viable information that you want to put up there, you will need to add where you got it from. So in this case, for the Monmouth people, it would be MORR, information deemed reliable but not guaranteed 2020. Okay, that's typically what we would put underneath there. All right, so it's letting everybody know that we got the information from our multiple listing service. All right, that we just didn't take it out of thin air and made up our own thing. All right, although sometimes we do that, but all right. Home warranty. Okay, home warranties are used. Sellers typically use home warranties to help buyers not feel the pain in the next year that they're going to be living there, in the sense that if something breaks, like the dishwasher breaks, or the refrigerator breaks, or the stove breaks, that they don't have to spend extra dollars that they may not have. All right. So a home warranty basically is an insurance for any certain items that are a part of the home warranty. Now, there's two types of companies or two types of home warranties. One company does not require an inspection prior to giving a home warranty. And then there's another home warranty that requires an inspection. Typically, when we have a seller doing a home warranty, we want to advertise that on the sign. Okay, so usually it will be, our sign with our name and our cell phone number on there, and then we might have up there home warranty. So if it's a home warranty that does not require an inspection, perfect, home warranty offered, or whatever it is. If it's a home warranty that requires an inspection, then what is called a rider, this is what sits on top of the sign, must state that home warranty requires a prior inspection. All right, again, so that this way we're not falsifying that they're going to get automatically a home warranty. All right, so anything that's different, that's not the norm, you must disclose. All right, so what is not the norm is that this company requires an inspection before giving a home warranty. All right, so whatever's not the norm, you need to disclose. And if you plan to advertise it, whether it's on a sign, in a magazine, in mailings, or whatever the case may be, you need to disclose. The best way for you never, ever, 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 ever to get into trouble is to be transparent and disclose everything, all right? This way, you'll never get into trouble. Knock on wood, I'm not going to put it out in the universe, but I've been good because I'm transparent. Okay? Commission rebates, all right? Again, only a broker may pay the rebate, all right? If there's going to be any kind of a rebate, you must always talk to the broker because the broker is the one that's going to be giving it up. Okay? You can't share any commissions with unlicensed people. So basically that means there's no such thing as bird dogging or giving a referral fee or anything like that because somebody gave you a name. If they're not a licensed realtor, you're not paying them for anything. Okay? Now, again, I have no idea what I'm talking about if you give them a Dunkin' Donuts card or a Starbucks card, or I have no idea what I'm talking about, but the answer is we're not allowed to give anything. Okay, it's against the law, all right? And the IRS tax code permit is $25, okay? And then that you're allowed to do. Price fixing, okay, is where there's an agreement between competing offices to establish standard commission rates. It's prohibited, it's against the law, all right, it's against the federal government law, and it's against the real estate commission. I might have gone a little bit beyond the book, but that's okay. We're going to be going through this again anyway. Grounds for suspension, okay, for revocation of a license, all right. The commission can investigate any complaints that are given to them by the public. Remember, it is the public that's making the complaints. They can place the licensee on probation. They can suspend the licensee and or revoke the licensee. All right. So I believe we're on page 22, if I'm not correct. Yes, on page 22. Okay. Possible fines are anywhere from $250 to $50,000. And this you have to remember for the real estate exam. This number you need to know, okay? And again, the money gets turned over to the state treasury because why? Because why? Okay, my little crickets, because the real estate commission never gets any money. Okay, that's why. So any monies always goes to the state treasury or the New Jersey state treasury, okay? The real estate commission never gets any monies. They might administer all the rules and regulations for certain things, but they never get the money. The way it works is they get a hearing. A licensee can get a hearing, an opportunity to get a hearing. They have to get a 10-day notice, and the broker must be informed about this hearing, okay? And with this hearing, then it's determined how they're going to get fined or whatever. So if it's a suspension, then it's less the time remaining on the license. So they have 24-hour notice, all right? And if it's based on commingling or failure to pay, then basically if it's a broker that's being investigated for commingling or failure to pay, all right? Because remember, we said if they don't pay us within 10 calendar days, they get into trouble, all right? So, or if they put their own monies into an escrow account other than to pay the fees, then basically they're going to get a full hearing and the real estate commission will freeze all the accounts until then determines what happens after that. The revocation is basically the termination for the remaining term of the license. So if my license has been revoked, then my license is revoked until, when is the end of this license period?
June 30th.
Of
21 of the odd
2021.
years.
Of the odd year 2021, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so then my license will be revoked until June 30th, 2021, and I'm screwed. Okay, and then I cannot be employed or be in any kind of office or share any kind of commissions or offices or anything like that. Okay, now I could be suspended, all right, and then that suspension could be until 2021. But if I get my hearing and all of this, it could be that I could just get a slap on the wrist and then get reinstated for whenever the hearing got finished. Okay. Right. Or probation could be any iteration of any of the combinations of any of this. But it's on the real estate commission, and whatever they feel like doing, they get to do whatever they want to do. But again, just know that most of this stuff is for really bad stuff. We're not talking simple, stupid kind of stuff. I mean, it's like, I'll give you an example. There's an agent in Monmouth County. She had a rental that the people lived up north, and she was renting it for them all the time. So she decided to rent it for a winter rental, and she collected the winter rental money. And then the family from up north came down, go inside the house, and lo and behold, there's somebody in this apartment that wasn't supposed to be there, and they never got the rent money. So needless to say, she got into trouble, and she had to pay back all the rent money that she got, and she got suspended for 3 months. All right. So we're not talking, simple, stupid stuff. We're talking like really serious kind of stuff. I mean, that's basically fraud if you really look at it. All right. So that's what we're talking about as far as disciplinary actions. Okay. So basically, there's a 10-day advance notice. They can be appealed to the New Jersey Superior Court, because once again, when I told you at the very, very beginning that the Real Estate Commission is considered a quasi judicial body, all right, or it has statutory rights as long as it's within the New Jersey law. They can't make up their own laws, but they can go by whatever the New Jersey laws are. The broker can be disciplined if they had guilty knowledge and they did not correct it. So in other words, if they knew that this girl was renting out this house and she was taking the rental money, okay, she was taking the rental money, and the broker knew about it but never did anything about it, then the broker could also be suspended and probably pay some sort of fine or other, okay? Violations, a repeat offender is denied ever holding real estate license again. And again, just like with the outside world, a repeat offender is considered 3 times. 3 times strikes and you're out. Okay, that's basically that. All right, and we are okay. All right. So what kind of violations? We already went through some of them, but false statements, misrepresentations, failure to account for other people's monies, convictions of certain crimes, paying commissions to unlicensed people, failure to notify, this I have to tell you about, notify of convictions within 30 days. Anything else, again, 3+ violations is considered a violation. Let me just tell you about this here, and this is why it's very important. There was an agent in a company that I was with who, her and her friends, they like to drink. They were single and they would like to drink and party a lot. And I was the third wheel half the time. And I was the driver because I don't drink. So we would go out and they would get drunk and all of this kind of stuff. And we'd have a good time. And then I would drive them each home and all of that. So a couple of times they went out on their own without me, which is fine. I don't care. But they got into trouble. And they got into really, really bad trouble. And the one girl especially had a car accident, and she was drunker than a skunk. And the other girl was with her, but somehow that got bypassed. And so this is the only one that I don't know, don't want to know, didn't know about it until after the fact and all of that. But the bottom line is neither of them told their broker manager that there was this big situation, okay? Now, if there was this big situation and the manager knew about it, I don't know how much she could have helped them out or not, but the bottom line, the manager did not know about it. And it was blasted in the Asbury Park press about this person because she was a school board president. So it became inflated into a volcano, all right? And that was the only way that the broker manager found out about it, okay? And so then, and because it was in the Asbury Park Press, because this was a corporate office, the corporate mucky muck from up north found out about it, and then that became an even more explosive volcano. So needless to say, the one girl basically lost her license forever. So if there's any kind of anything that happens to you, tell your broker manager, because you never know, they may be able to protect you, because you don't know who your broker knows and who they can call favors in, etc. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so if there's anything, when in doubt, tell your manager, all right? Because you don't know who they know and how they can help you or fix things. I mean, obviously, if you're stealing, that's a whole different story, all right? So that's my little tale on failure to notify of convictions. Lastly, the first violation is not more than $5,000. The subsequent violation is not more than $10,000. And you may have to pay restitution and also attorney fees, etc. In the exam, somebody is going to get something where they say the violation was $5,000, another violation was $10,000, another violation was $10,000. They were found guilty, blah, blah, blah. How much did this person have to pay? The answer is you add them all up. So in my example, it was $25,000. Okay, so it's not just 5,000, it's not just 10. The way the question reads and the way the question is worded, you're going to add up all of them, and that's the answer in the multiple choice. And you'll have the answer 5,000 and 10,000 and 15,000, or you know, but the answer is 20. You add them all up. All right, that's the key to that. If the violation is a civil or a criminal offense, which in this case it was, then it also gets prosecuted by the New Jersey courts along with the Real Estate Commission. Okay. Again, just so you know, who gives the operating expense to the Real Estate Commission? We had this at the very, very beginning. Where does the Real Estate Commission sit under? What was that, Haley? I saw your mouth working, so what is it?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I was just.
Doesn't matter. So, all right, so I'll give you the answer. The Department of Banking and Insurance. All right, so the Real Estate Commission operating expense and personnel comes from the Department of Banking and Insurance. So any fines, remember I said the monies never goes to the Real Estate Commission. It always goes to the state treasury. Okay, the decisions again can be reviewed by the Superior Court because again, the Real Estate Commission is a statutory. If you don't pay your fine, you can go to a county jail. Misdemeanors are not felonies, and there's a question in the state for that. If it's a money crime, then your license is revoked, okay? And the broker's license, okay, so the automatic suspension of salespeople's license is if a broker's license is suspended, meaning if we had a collusion or commingling or something, then the broker's license is suspended, then everybody's license is suspended, all right, no matter what, without prejudice. until they go to another agency. All right. So if you hear some rumblings or something and you transfer out, it's easy. If not, automatically all of your licenses go back to the real estate commission and you're in that twilight zone. The broker is not punished for the salesperson, but they are punished for the salesperson if they had guilty knowledge and they didn't do anything about it, even if they did not take part in it. Okay. Blockbusting, again, I'm a little bit ahead, but that's okay. Blockbusting is where we are trying to tell people, I think I'm in the next page, okay? It's basically where we're telling people that they have to sell because undesirable people are moving in to the neighborhood. That's illegal, all right? And I'll get into that further. And why am I going? Okay. And basically, the bottom line, out of everything, you must possess an understanding of the license laws and rules and regulations because that's what governs our conduct, all right? And basically, if you don't have to look at all of it, but look at some of it in the Appendix B and the Appendix A, because the Appendix A is the Real Estate Commission and the other one is the New Jersey license, right? So the one is 45 and the other one is 11. Okay, so that's where we are. So tonight you're going to get spit out the exam, the quiz, all right, and then on Thursday we're going to be doing, because this is intense, all right. So we're going to do something fun. We're going to be doing chapter 5 and 6, which is what is real estate and estates and ownership. And then next Tuesday, we're going to be doing chapter 3. I think it's in the Google Classroom. I have the syllabus. All right. And then the following, anyway, so that's basically it. So this Thursday is going to be chapter 5 and 6, not as intense. All right. It's going to be.
So we have a quiz tonight.
All right. Any questions?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, good night, everybody. See you
Thank
on
you.
Thursday.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Why is it not ending? End meeting for all. Stop. And come on, machine.